Assalamu'alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 7. We will present about teaching writing. Okay, before this, I will introduce myself. My name is Reni Pradifta Apriliani. In this part, I will explain part of material about reason for teaching writing. So, in the teaching writing, there are many reasons, but I will explain some reason. Okay, first is writing gives them more thinking time than they get when they attempt spontaneous conversation. This allows them more opportunity for language processing, that is, thinking about the language, whether they are involved in study or activation. Okay, in this first reason, the point is that writing gives more time, thinking time, because when writing there must be time like that can use for student to think, and it is different with the conversation, because in the conversation we must be spontaneous to answer. That is different with writing. And then second is, when thinking about writing, it is helpful to make a distinction between writing for learning and reading for writing. In this case of the former, writing is used as a medium or practice tool to help students practice and work with language they have been studying. It means when we think about writing, it can help differentiate or distinguish between what is writing for writing and what is writing for learning. And writing also can help students in either practice or work with language they have been learned. And then third reason, I have example for second reason. For example, ask a class to write five sentences using given structure or using 5 of new words or phrases that have been learned by students. Then writing activities like this are designed to give reinforcement for students. And then the third reason is writing for writing, on the other hand, is directed at developing the student's skill as writers. In other words, the main purpose for activities of this type is that students should become better at writing, whatever kind of writing that might be. So, that means in the third reason is, well, for writing for writing, it is possible to develop their skill for the student or for the writers, and the goal that from writing for writing is the student or writer can be better at write anything. For example, to writing for writing is in real life is example like we send email, letters, and so on. Okay, next is writing issues. In order to help students write successfully and enthusiastically in different styles, we need to consider 3 separate issues. First, genre. In our decision about what the guest student to write will depend on what genre we think they need to write in or which will be useful to them. Once we have done this, we can show them show them example of text within a genre. For example, a variety of different kind of written invitation, so that they get a feel for the convention of that genre. Such genre analysis will help students see how typically texts within a genre are constructed, and this knowledge will help them construct appropriate texts of their own. Such guided writing will help students produce appropriate text even with fairly limited English. However, as their language level improves, we need to make sure that their writing begin to express their own creativity within a genre rather than merely imitating it. Okay, that is so say that one of which that student who want to be in writing must pay attention in genre. By showing an example first, showing the example of poem, type of invitation. So they, as a student or as writers, are able to distinguish the genre. Then they can decide for themselves what genre will they write for writing. And also we provide example regarding the analysis of structure of each genre. So the analyze structure of each genre can make student to analyze, and student can make article according to their choices and also in accordance with the structure or genre rules that have been selected. And for guided writing, it can help them in writing too, because in this case guided writing can help students produce text or express their creativity, but it's still in accordance with their English skills. Okay, next, the writing process. When students are writing for writing, we will want to involve them in process of writing. In the real world, this typically involves planning what we are going to write, drafting it, reviewing, and editing what we have written, and then producing a final and satisfactory version. We will need to encourage students to plan, draft, and edit in this way, even though this may be time-consuming and may meet initially with some resistance on their part. By doing so, we will help them to be better writer both in exam, for example, in their post-class English life. This slide, it's mean when student writing for writing, the student make an effort to be involved or understand in detail the writing process. Therefore, in real world or in real life, it usually goes through a process of planning and then draft, replan, draft, edit, replan, re-edit, replan, etc. before producing the final production. And certainly this process will take a lot of time, because there are many processes to do by student or writer. So we have to help the student or writer to become better writer in exam, for example, in their post-class English life. Next is building the writing habit. It is when students have acquired this writing habit that they are able to look at written genre and involve themselves in writing process with enthusiasm. It means that another issue which we can refer to as building the writing habit deserves mention here is building the reading habit. Many students either think or say that they cannot or do not want to write. This may because they lack of confidence, think it's poor, or believe they have nothing to say. We need to engage them from early level with activities which are easy and enjoyable to take part in. So the writing activities not only become a normal part of classroom life, but also present opportunities for students to achieve almost instant success. Okay, that's all for me. The next material will be delivered by my friends.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Fatimatuz Zahro. Today I will explain about writing sequences. Okay, there are 3 examples of writing activity to show a range of level and complexity. The first is postcard. This activity in level pre-intermediate or intermediate. This activity it show how students at a fairly early level can be helped to write within a certain genre. In write, the postcard often leave out a lot of words to save space. For example, when we write the real sentence, we are having a great time. But when we write postcard, we just only write having a great time. It's meant to give space to writing the order text. And then teacher can show the student to another postcard to give imagine they are on themselves and then discuss their own in pair or small group, deciding where they will send the postcard from and what they want to say. Teacher will ask them to pay special attention to kind of word they can leave out. Jadi teacher juga harus memberi arahan kata yang harus ditinggalkan itu yang apa gitu. Students get to look at how postcards are structured, and then teacher also show students how structure of postcard. For example, description of where the writer is, activity the writer is involved in, exhortation to the reader, sign off. Teacher can ask them to write something like that, and teacher gives students postcard phrases for them to arrange into a postcard. And the next is email interviews. In this activity in level pre-intermediate upward. This genre is highly activity way of getting students to write communicatively. This activity more communicative. And how to apply. The first, student teacher showing student an example, the kind of interview, and they discuss how it is put together, and Teacher asks students to work in pair or group, choosing the question they want to use, and teacher will stress the question should be general, yes, to be answered by another. Jadi pertanyaannya lebih umum, jadi teman yang lainnya itu juga bisa menjawab. And the next student write a fire copy the question and send them to one of the other students in class. They then send the replies back to questioner, whose job is to write up the interviews appropriately. And teacher can vary the activity by asking the questioner to turn question and answer into questionless prose. This activity is to learn them to construction their text, because students in general they have to active their language knowledge before at various stage they modified what has been said or what they have written. The last activity is writing a report. Yes, in level upper intermediate, this activity is detailed and will take some time. During writing a report, students analyze the report journals, look at some language point, gather information, draft their point, check in, and product level version. Thus, immersing themselves not only in writing product but in process of writing. Nah, aktiviti kegiatan ini juga tidak hanya menghasilkan sebuah report saja, karya tulis saja gitu, tapi juga student juga belajar dalam proses menulisnya. Okay, more activity, more writing suggestion. The first, instant writing. This activity is where students are asked to write immediately in response to teacher requests. For example, dictate half sentence for students to complete. Instant writing is designed both to make students comfortable when writing and also to give them thinking time before they say sentence they have written a lot. The next, using music and picture. And how about how to play using music? The teacher can play music and students have to imagine and then write all the sense they thinking it could accompany. Teacher can dictate the first sentence of story and then student complete the story based on music they play. Next, teacher can dictate the first sentence again and have them write a different story. Teacher can read out one of their story and the class has to guess which music expert inspired it. And how about which use picture? The activity we can write describes one of group of picture. Their classmates then have to guess which one it is, and then write postcard beside a picture. Write the inner thought of the character or their diary, or article about them. This activity is writing give students writing freely in engaging way. And the next is newspaper and magazine. For example, teacher can get students to look arrange different articles and ask them to analyze how headline are constructed and how articles are normally arranged. Students write articles about student writing the newspaper magazine, the real magazine. It's interesting, and at advanced level, teacher can get students to look at some story dealt with by different kind of publication and ask them to write specifically for one or the other. And teacher can do some kind of genre analysis in newspaper and magazine. And the next is browser and guides. Students get to look a variety of browsers to analyze how they are put together. They can write their own browser or our own guide using this analysis to help them. Jadi, student bisa melihat berbagai macam browser, kemudian menganalisisnya, menganalisis isi-isinya bagaimana, strukturnya bagaimana. Terus they can write their own browser. And for your learners, writing browser and guide for the area which give completely wrong information. For example, sending postcard from. Look for the best market rubbish or litter, and your postcard will be delivered next day. The next is poetry. Students can write poems to express themselves. Yes, this activity give more creative and for besides express them. Poetry writing is especially appropriate for young learners who are usually not afraid to have to go in ways suggested above. Seperti ini kegiatan menulis yang lebih kreatif dari kegiatan yang lainnya. And the next is collaborative writing. Students can a lot from constructing text together. Berarti student dapat constructing sebuah teks itu bersama-sama dengan murid yang lainnya. And how to apply? Teacher can have them build up a letter on the board where each line is written by a different student. Teacher can tell a story which student then have to try reproduce what they have here. They compare their version with original include. They can set up a story cycle in which each author in group has a piece of paper on the right the first line of story. And student have to write the next sentence, so on. After that, they pass their paper to the person next to them, and they write the next sentence of story they now have in front of them. They then pass the paper to next student and again write the next sentence of the new story they have. Jadi guru menceritakan sebuah cerita, nanti muridnya itu dalam grup itu dapat reproduksi, dapat menghasilkan apa yang didengar itu, menulis apa yang didengar itu menjadi sebuah cerita yang kemudian di-compare dalam versi grupnya ya. Dan student menulis in each line, first line of a story, and then the other student continue the next sentence or writing a story, so on, like that. So student can also engage in collaborative writing around a computer screen. The next is writing to each other. For example, this activity is email interview, like in above, yes, before it, yes. They can be involved under our supervision in live chat session of the internet. Our teacher can organize pen-pal exchange with students in other countries. Ya, jadi email interview melalui email ya. Jadi they can chat chatting dengan siswa lain, or the teacher give organize pen to student with student in other countries, so they can give more create in writing. And the last is writing in other genres. The different genres is student can write personal narrative and other story. Teacher can prepare them for this by looking at why other writers do it. Teacher can analyze first lines of novel, and then student write their own attention-grabbing lines. Teacher can get student to complete story that only have to. For many of these activities, getting the student to think together before they attempt the text brainstorming idea will be a major factor in their success. And students can write discursive essays in which they assemble argument both for and against a proposition, work out a coherent order for the arguments. Study various models for such an essay. They then write their own. All these ideas depend for their success on students having a chance to share ideas. Look at example of the genre when they writing and then draft and edit it. So that's all for me. Okay, the next presentation, the next material will be explained by my friend. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mumtaz Izzati. I will explain about correcting written word. Correcting written word itu bisa diartikan mengkoreksi karya tulis. Banyak sekali di kalangan para pelajar sering sekali menulis entah dari laptop ataupun pen dengan kertas ataupun pen dengan buku, ya. Dan tidak semua tulisan itu mengandung benar. Ada juga tulisan itu mempunyai kesalahan, mulai dari tanda bacanya, terus hurufnya ataupun sebagainya. Oke, langsung saja. Berikutnya saya akan merangkum beberapa dari kesalahan umum pada karya tulis dan cara memperbaikinya, ya. Oke, yang pertama itu spasi pada penulisan tanda baca. Dan di sini saya menjelaskan tanda titik 2, ya. Tanda titik 2 itu bisa diartikan tidak boleh ada spasi sebelumnya. Contohnya sudah ada di PPT, yaitu seperti itu antara lain, ya. Titik spasi terus titik 2 itu menandakan salah. Kalau yang benar itu berarti antara lain belum spasi tapi langsung aja titik 2 kayak gitu. Sudah jelas, ya. Oke, karena penulisan tanda baca tersebut tuh sebenarnya bersifat universal, yang artinya semua bahasa memiliki aturan kebakuan yang sama, kecuali itu untuk tempat, waktu, dan lain-lain pada surat. Oke, lanjut. Selanjutnya garis miring, ya, atau tanda penghubung. Itu tidak boleh ada spasi sebelum dan sesudah. Jadi kayak seperti di contoh, adik langsung garis miring kakak gitu, gak ada spasinya, langsung aja seperti itu. Oke, lanjut. Yang ke titik, ya, atau tanda seru ataupun tanda tanya. Dan itu tuh bersifat tidak boleh ada spasi sebelumnya, tetapi harus ada spasi setelahnya. Nah, di sini contohnya kayak gini, ya. Sebagai berikut: titik, spasi dalam beberapa bla bla bla, itu seperti itu contohnya. Oke, karena titik itu tandanya kan berhenti penuh. Terus untuk tanda tanya, tanda seru itu fungsinya sebagai penanda akhir kalimat, ya. Terus lanjut, titik koma atau titik koma, ya. Itu artinya sama seperti tanda berhenti penuh, walaupun tanda koma adalah tanda berhenti setengah, seperti itu. Terus yang kedua, penulisan imbuhan di atau di dan ke. Imbuhan di itu penulisan harus digabung antara di kemudian dasar, kata dasar. Contohnya, ya, seperti di contoh dipukulnya itu tidak ada spasi di-nya, langsung aja dipukul. Terus ditetapkan, di-nya itu langsung gabung dengan tetapkan, seperti itu. Terus preposisi itu kata depan untuk keterangan tempat. Penulisannya harus dipisah antara kata di, kata keterangan tempatnya. Jadi preposisi itu seperti kata di, terus ada keimbuhan kata tempat. Contohnya seperti ini, di atas. Jadi itu kan atas itu kan tempat. Jadi di-nya itu harus spasi, nggak boleh nggak spasi. Jadi di spasi atas, terus juga di
spasi bawah, juga di spasi mana. Itu namanya preposisi. Yang ketiga, penulisan kata berbahasa asing. Jadi di sini penulisan kata berbahasa asing harus dicetak miring. Contohnya yang seperti ini. Memparsing. Lah itu memnya itu kata imbuhan ya. Terus parsing, lah itu parsing itu kata asing. Terus mengcrawling, di steaming, mengoutputkan, outputnya itu berbahasa asing, seperti itu. Lanjut yang keempat, penulisan kata tidak baku. Jadi kayak gini ya, yang seperti di contoh, analisa jadi analisis, di mana jadi di mana, D-nya itu di spasi ya. Ranking, yang benarnya peringkat, seperti itu. Jadi yang kelima, diksi di mana atau di spasi mana dan di antaranya. Di sini menjelaskan di mana atau di mana, di spasi mana itu artinya pada penulisan rumus atau menjelaskan dengan klausa baru umumnya banyak menggunakan kata di spasi mana atau di mana. Padahal bahasa Indonesia tidak kenal kata di adalah preposisi. Kata yang benar untuk menghubung kalimat majemuk adalah yang mana, karena yang adalah kata penghubung. Kalau di antaranya, penggunaan di antaranya hanya digunakan apabila sesuatu terletak di tengah-tengah di antara sesuatu yang lain di kanan dan di kiri, apabila ingin menyebutkan beberapa hal yang terkadang di dalam sesuatu. Seperti kayak gini ya, antara lain, bukan di antaranya. Harus mau menulis di antaranya itu harus diganti antara lain aja, seperti itu. Terus yang keenam, tidak boleh ada ruang kosong di dalam bawah. Ya, seperti pengertian di bawah ini ya, sebisa mungkin tidak boleh ada ruang kosong yang tersisa pada suatu halaman. Biasanya ada ruang kosong karena ada gambar atau tabel yang tidak muat. Sebisa mungkin harus diisi tulisan, misal yang ada di halaman belakang dimajukan ke depan. Terus gambar yang diperkecil selama masih bisa terlihat, atau tabelnya dipotong. Itu seperti itu. Oke, lanjut yang handwriting ya. Yang handwriting. Nah, di sini kan seperti di sini menjelaskan bahwa setiap tahunnya itu kan banyak elektronik yang canggih-canggih seperti zaman sekarang ini. Dan juga untuk penulisannya juga memudahkan penulisannya ya. Ya, seperti cara rapinya, cara hurufnya itu kan semuanya bisa menggunakan dengan elektronik laptop ya. Dan di sini banyak negara lain juga menulis dengan menggunakan media elektronik karena memudahkan pekerjaan. Untuk memperjuangkan penulis itu masih ada, kita perlu memahami tulisan. Jadi kayak gini, maksudnya ini kan sudah banyak ya yang memakai elektronik ya. Kita berusaha untuk memakai manual. Jadi ada murid yang menggunakan laptop itu sebaiknya kita mengajarkan anak itu menulis dengan manual agar tulisannya itu paham mana yang tidak rapi, mana yang rapi, seperti itu. Karena setiap orang itu cara menulisnya itu tidak sama, ada yang beda-beda, ada yang penulisan hurufnya besar, depannya kecil, terus nulis depannya kecil, terus yang belakangnya besar kayak gitu. Itu perlu dipelajari kepada murid yang masih SD apa masih TK. Nah, di sini dengan cara ini guru mengajari siswa untuk menulis dengan rapi agar dapat terbaca. Seperti itu. Berikut ini cara mengajari siswa menulis dengan rapi, itu ada di PPT ya, seperti itu. Guru mengajar anak muridnya untuk menulis tangan dengan rapih, menulis tulisan dengan rapih. Ya, seperti itu penjelasan dari saya tentang handwriting. Dan sekian, terima kasih. Mohon maaf apabila ada kesalahan. Saya minta maaf atau kurang penjelasannya, apa kurang paham, apa kurang penjelasannya, mohon maaf. Sama-sama belajar juga di sini, dan terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi